morning. Just waiting for the slides. That was dope. Hi, my name is Julia Cheng. I teach middle school science, and I've had a really weird year. So this year I quit a job, I started a new job, and next year I'm going to be at a third school. In the middle of all this, there was this teacher strike, right? So all this transition meant that this year I was thinking a lot about community and schools and our roles in schools. So I want to talk a little bit about centering our work in community. So a lot of you probably know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's something that underlines our work in schools, but I think that's a problem. Because what you may not know is that Maslow actually took his ideas from the Blackfoot Nation. And in the original, he shifted it from a teepee to a triangle or a pyramid, and he emphasized the individual with self-actualization at the top of that pyramid. In the original, the Blackfoot had self-actualization as the foundation, and community actualization and cultural perpetuity are at the top. So that's why I think we need to shift from this idea of Maslow and individualism in our schools. Because right now, schools are under attack, and schools are some of the last places where we are forced to figure out community. And community is messy, it's exhausting, but it's where we're forced to figure out how to navigate different ideas, goals, and experiences. And that process of figuring out is what makes us stronger. We got to see a lot of this year with the teacher strike, and that was beautiful. And that power is also dangerous to the ultra-wealthy, and that's why they're funding charter networks. So this isn't really new. Dismantling communities has been going on for a long time. If we look at redlining in the 1930s and a map of the charter schools in the East Bay, we see a pattern. And there's a lot of maps that we can see the same exact pattern in. So that's why right now in schools, it's so super essential to hold on to that idea of community and build and keep communities in schools. So how can we do this? How can we shift from an individual to community practice? So there's two ways I want to talk about, and first I'm going to talk about in the classroom. So in the classroom, I think we really need to center ourselves first in our teaching and our philosophies around teaching. So I do this usually once or twice a year because I think it's really easy to get distracted by the demands of teaching and get away from our true purpose. So this is sort of a mind map that I made, and then I kind of made it more artistic about what is my purpose in teaching. And then I think when you find that, then you can find more connections between yourself, community, and your curriculum. So for example, I use thinking routines by agency by design, parts, purposes, complexities. It's really similar to an NGSS standard, form and function. And we talk about Norman doors. Those are the doors that you want to pull, but they're actually a push. They're really frustrating. We talk about tacos, all the parts, purposes of tacos, adaptations and leaves, and then self-structure and function. And we can even talk about that in society as well. Another way is through pedagogy. So in my classroom, I'm trying to develop agency for students to be wrong and also distribute knowledge because that really mirrors the scientific community and what science is about. I'm still really learning about this though, and I think there's a lot more to learn here today. So let's move on to outside the classroom. This is really hard for me because adults are exhausting. Like I can deal with kids all the time, but exhaust adults. And like I said, I quit this year because I found myself in these toxic patterns of survival, learned helplessness, and then kind of the opposite, overextending, feeling like if I worked really hard, I could just solve those structural problems, which of course isn't really true. But I do want to recognize that the systems and structures in place are designed to make us feel like we have to just survive. So we have to get beyond that survival. And when we're in survival mode, we also isolate. And again, that takes away a lot of our power. So how I'm starting to think about this is from shifting from viewing what I'm trying to build in community as not my vision of this ideal community, but valuing the process of building that community, valuing the messy in that. And that's really a maker's mindset, the process over the product. It is kind of something I've been telling kids for a while, like have a growth mindset, but when we look at Maslow, that's really a goal-oriented thing, not a process-oriented thing. And that's why we have to shift back to the Blackfoot original. Because at the top of the Blackfoot teepee is this idea of cultural perpetuity, which is the idea that an individual might be forgotten, but we really have this role in passing on the teachings of our people. And for me, that teaching is community. And it's also described as the breath of life, and which is the idea that we could get overwhelmed by everything, or we can breathe in, we can step back and put ourselves in the bigger picture in community and time. And so that's what I challenge you to do, to center yourself in community in the classroom and in the process of community. Community is always going to be unfinished, messy, and powerful. Thank you.